Welcome back to another deep dive. Today, we're turning our attention to Ghana, specifically looking at how its agricultural supply chain works.
Yeah, and our main source here is David Odu's book, Navigating Ghana's Agricultural Supply Chain. It's a really insightful look.
It really is. Our mission, well, it was pretty simple. Pull out the key stuff about how food actually gets from the farms in Ghana to, well, to us consumers, wherever we are.
And it's a topic with some really big implications. Adu makes it clear this isn't just about trucks and roads. It's about the economy, the daily lives of almost half the people in Ghana.
Absolutely. And Adu, he jumps right in, doesn't he? With this really powerful story.
Oh, the one about Al Hassan.
Yeah, all of a sudden in the Upper East region,
Mm-hmm.
he watches his whole tomato harvest basically rot because the truck that was supposed to take it broke down.
Hmm.
It's just one story, but it immediately shows you the fragility, the systemic issues we're going to talk about, that whole link between growing food and eating it.
That opening anecdote, it just encapsulates so much, doesn't it? The poor infrastructure, the massive potential for loss after harvest, the difficulty getting to market. Alison's tomatoes, they're a symbol of all that.
Exactly, and it really highlights why this matters so much. I mean, agriculture in Ghana, it's not some small sector. It employs, what, 48% of the workforce?
Almost half, yeah. It's huge.
Yeah.
Millions of people.
Millions.
Yeah.
Their livelihoods depend directly on the land. And it's a
Mhm.
huge driver for the economy, too. Key crops like cocoa, obviously, but also cassava, maize, they're vital, both locally and globally. I mean, Ghana's the second biggest cocoa producer in the world.
That's a massive footprint. You really can't overstate how important farming is to Ghana's economy and just, well, people's well-being. And Adu's book digs into all the details.
It certainly does. So here's the plan for this deep dive. First, we'll look at where Ghanaian agriculture stands right now, the different regions, the key trends.
Then trace that journey, the supply chain itself, farm to fork, so to speak.
Right. Then we'll tackle the big hurdles, the things stopping it from running smoothly. We'll also get into the risks farmers face and, importantly, how they're adapting, how they're building resilience.
And the opportunities, too. There's definitely potential for growth and new ideas. We'll look at some success stories.
Definitely. Success stories. And finally, we'll discuss potential solutions, policy ideas, practical steps for a more sustainable future. Okay, let's jump in. Starting with why agriculture is so central in Ghana.
Well, what strikes you immediately, and Adu really stresses this, is how deep agriculture runs in Ghana. It's more than just jobs. It's like part of the culture, a way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it's an economic engine, livelihoods for over 6 million people, a big chunk of the GDP.
And those key crops really paint the picture. Cocoa, yeah, king of exports, brings in billions, puts Ghana on the map.
Absolutely. Global player.
But then you have cassava and maize.
Yeah.
Maybe less glamorous, but they feed millions domestically. Cassava is incredibly versatile, right? Gaudy, fufu.
Staple foods. And maize is crucial for food security, especially up north.
Adu also highlights the regional differences, which are super important to understand.
Oh, definitely. You've got the drier north, the savannas relying on millet, sorghum, just one rainy season. Totally different from the south.
Right. The south with its lush forests, perfect for cocoa, oil palm, much more rain. And then the Volta region, the coast rice, veggies, coconuts, pineapples. It's like several different farming countries in one.
It really is a mosaic. And Adu makes the point that this diversity is actually a huge strength. So many different crops, huge potential if things align.
He also talked about new trends, like cash crops beyond cocoa gaining ground shea butter, cashews. The growth in shea exports is interesting, often driven by women's groups in the north.
That diversification is key. And government programs like Planting for Food and Jobs have had some impact. Distributing seeds, fertilizer.
But mechanization is still lagging, right?
Yeah. Oh, hugely. Most farmers are still using hand tools. It's a major constraint. And organic farming is popping up a bit too, driven by city consumers, but it's still pretty small scale.
Right. So it's dynamic, but like Adu says, its potential is nowhere near fully tapped. You hear about massive post-harvest losses, infrastructure issues, most farmers being smallholders. It points to systemic problems, not lack of effort from farmers.
Exactly. Which brings us neatly to the supply chain itself. How does it all connect?
Adu uses this great example, Ama's rice moving from the Volta region to a family in Tema. It shows it's not a straight line, is it?
Not at all. It's this complex web, different stages, lots of different people involved, flows of goods, information, money. It's intricate.
He breaks it down basically into 4 stages: production on the farm, then processing, then distribution, and finally retail.
Production is mostly those millions of smallholders producing the vast majority of food, often with very limited resources.
Then processing, turning raw crops into something else, like women pounding cassava into gari or milling millet, adds value.
But, as Adu points out, not much of Ghana's produce actually gets processed in a major way. Often lack of equipment, facilities locally.
Then distribution, getting the food from A to B. This is where those bad roads and high transport costs really bite. Causes spoilage, eats into profits.
Big time. And finally, retail. You know, the traders in the busy markets, like Esther and Accra he mentions, they're vital, connecting food to people.
But the farmers often see only a tiny slice of the final price.
Right.
Because it passes through so many hands.
Precisely. Too many intermediaries sometimes. And it's not just the stages, it's the players involved. Farmers, obviously, but also cooperatives trying to give farmers more clout, transporters, market traders, and the government setting the rules.
And those 3 crucial flows underpinning it all: the physical movement of the food,
The information flow, especially about prices, which often doesn't get back to the farmers properly or quickly enough.
that's a huge one. And the money flow access to credit is still a major hurdle for so many small farmers wanting to invest.
That lack of good market info and affordable finance, they are critical weak spots. Farmers relying on rumors or the middlemen themselves for prices, that puts them at a huge disadvantage.
And without credit, they can't easily buy better seeds or tools or anything to improve things. It keeps them stuck.
So yeah, the picture you get is a system that works, sort of, but it's leaky, inefficient, and pretty vulnerable.
Okay, let's drill down into those vulnerabilities now, the main roadblocks holding things back.
And again, the personal stories make it real. Like Kwame in Brong Ahafo watching his mangoes rot, bad roads, broken truck.
Adu really hammers home the infrastructure issue. Only a tiny fraction of rural roads are paved. That directly impacts getting produce out, leads to spoilage, lost money.
Absolutely critical. And storage is just as bad, if not worse. He says less than 10% of farmers have access to modern storage, like cold rooms or silos.
Think about that, less than 10%. And the result, those staggering post-harvest losses we hear about. It's like a silent tax on the whole system.
The numbers are shocking, aren't they? 20–30% for fruits and veg, maybe up to 70% for greens sometimes. Just gone.
It's devastating. And the ripple effects are huge. Lost income for farmers, higher prices for consumers, just wasted food. He mentions pineapples in the central region, just rotting into compost because there's no processing capacity nearby. Preventable losses.
Completely preventable. And even if the food gets off the farm, farmers then struggle to find good markets and get fair prices.
Yeah, that reliance on middlemen. They often take such a big cut.
Yeah.
And the lack of clear market info just compounds that disadvantage.
And finance access again. It keeps coming up. Small farmers often don't have the collateral banks want for loans. So investing in better farming. Really tough. Microfinance helps some, but doesn't reach nearly everyone who needs it.
And then layered over all of this, you've got climate change.
Yeah. Adu describes it vividly: changing rains, hotter temperatures, more pests and diseases. It's hitting yields hard across the country. Stories of drought in the north, floods in the south, that makes a vulnerability really clear.
Climate change just makes all the other problems worse, doesn't it?
It's a multiplier, exactly. Messes up planting times, damages roads and storage, creates uncertainty for everyone, farmers, buyers, leads to price swings, food insecurity.
So it's this tangle of issues. Bad infrastructure, huge losses, problems with markets and money, and climate change stirring it all up. It affects the whole economy, everyone's food, millions of livelihoods.
But, and this is important, Adu emphasizes these challenges are also where the opportunities for change lie, which leads us to resilience. How are farmers actually coping?
Right, because they are coping, adapting.
They have to. Adu talks about the constant uncertainty, like for Fuseni in the Upper West who lost his crop to drought. The whole chain is risky, prices jump around, weather's unpredictable, money's tight.
That price volatility, that's a roller coaster. Prices might be okay right after harvest, then crash when everyone's selling, or spike later due to shortages.
And who benefits most from those swings? Often the middlemen, not the farmers who lack the info to play the market.
Exactly. And the weather. Droughts, floods, they're becoming more common, more intense. It's a direct threat. Can wipe out a whole harvest, like Fuseni's maize.
Less pests, diseases, often linked to the changing climate too. Another layer of risk.
And that lack of financial cushion makes it so much harder to bounce back. No credit, no insurance means one bad season can be absolutely catastrophic, trapping families in poverty.
But Adu also highlights the resilience, the ways farmers are fighting back. Crop insurance is one thing, still early days with the Ghana Agricultural Insurance Pool, GAIP, but it offers a potential safety net.
Diversifying crops, too. That makes a
Yeah,
lot of sense. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
exactly. Planting different things means you're less vulnerable if one crop fails or its price collapses. Like farmers intercropping yam with veggies spreads the risk, stabilizes income.
And sometimes simple things work best, like better storage.
Definitely. Improving storage right there in the community, manage silos. Maybe better cold storage cuts down those post-harvest losses massively. Lets farmers hold on to their crops, sell when prices are better, not just at harvest time when they're low.
Adu tells that great story about Shiseni recovering after the drought wiped out his maize.
Yeah, he switched things up, planted cowpeas.
Right? Cowpeas are tougher in dry conditions, and they actually improve the soil. So he managed to recoup some losses, rebuild. It shows real ingenuity.
It really does. And Fusini's story shows resilience isn't just about avoiding risk, it's about adapting, finding ways around the challenges. Adu notes most smallholders keep farming even after a bad year. That shows commitment and this growing ability to cope.
Okay, so despite the difficulties, there's adaptation happening. Let's shift focus now to the more positive side, the signs of progress and the opportunities for real growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Because amidst the challenges, Adu points to some really encouraging things happening. Technology, for one, is starting to make a difference.
Like precision farming.
Exactly. Using drones, sensors, helping farmers like Abina, who he mentions, use fertilizer more efficiently, improve yields. It's still niche, but promising.
And mobile phones. They seem to be everywhere now.
Huge impact. Apps like Trotro Tractor are connecting farmers to machinery hire, which was often impossible before. Helps guys like Yakubu plow fields way faster.
Makes sense. And other apps like Isoko, getting market info out there.
Yeah, better price information helps them make smarter selling decisions. It empowers them.
Then there's value addition.
Yeah.
That seems like a massive, maybe underappreciated opportunity.
Totally. Adu asks, why sell raw cassava cheap when processing it into gari could double your profit? Supporting local processing gari, fish preservation with cold chains could generate so much more income locally.
And finding more markets beyond the local ones.
Crucial. Look at shea butter exports driven by those women's co-ops, or the growing cashew industry. There's potential to develop more export markets and also strengthen local co-ops so farmers get better bargaining power and access overall.
And finally, sustainability. It's not just good for the planet, it's good economics too, right?
Absolutely. Climate-smart agriculture, drought-tolerant crops, agroforestry builds resilience to climate change and improves soil health long-term. Government programs like FAS Step 2 are helping with training here.
So these aren't just ideas, we're seeing actual results.
We are. Adu gives examples of tech-savvy farmers earning significantly more. If these things can be scaled up, adopted more widely, the potential growth is really significant. Projections show the sector could grow substantially by, 2028?
Wow. Okay, to make this even more concrete, let's look at those case studies Adu presents, examples of where things have gone right.
He focuses on two main ones: COCOBOD, the Ghana Cocoa Board, and the Northern Rural Growth Program, the NRGP.
COCOBOD is fascinating, managing the cocoa chain for decades.
It really is. Despite some liberalization, they've kept a strong hand setting minimum prices, licensing buyers, enforcing quality standards. That strategy has been key to making Ghana a global cocoa giant, benefiting hundreds of thousands of farmers like Kwesi.
So it's a mix of market control and farmer support.
Exactly. They stabilize prices, which is huge in a volatile market, but they also provide extension services, training, better seedlings, subsidized fertilizer. It's a comprehensive approach that's really boosted quantity and quality over the years.
And the results are clear. More exports, more foreign exchange, less poverty in cocoa areas.
Definitely. Ghana's cocoa even gets a premium price because the quality is consistently high.
Okay, so that's cocoa. What about the Northern Rural Growth Program? Different focus.
Very different. Targeted support for smallholders in the poorer, drier northern regions. Backed by international donors, it focused on things like fixing feeder roads, improving irrigation, setting up farmer groups, promoting climate-smart techniques, and, crucially, improving access to finance.
And the challenges there were particularly tough. Droughts, lack of infrastructure, poverty.
Exactly. So interventions like building roads to connect remote farms to markets or installing boreholes for irrigation made a massive difference to farmers like Amina, he mentions.
And did it work? Did they see results?
Documented successes, yeah. Doubling millet yields for participants, reducing post-harvest losses, increasing household incomes. And they had a specific focus on empowering women through savings groups, which was really important.
So two very different examples, but valuable lessons from both.
For sure. Adu stresses the need for collaboration, government, farmers, private sector, donors working together, and the absolute need for strategic, sustained investment in infrastructure, technology, and farmer support. These cases show positive change is possible.
Okay, so we've seen the challenges, the resilience, the opportunities, and these success stories. Let's wrap up by looking at the specific solutions, policies, and practical steps to build that better future.
Right. This is where Adu moves into recommendations. Top of the list. Fixing rural roads. It's fundamental for market access, cutting losses. He suggests even redirecting some existing infrastructure money to these feeder roads could be transformative for farmers like Ya.
Makes sense. He also pushes for subsidizing key technologies, doesn't he?
He does. Things like drones or tractors are just too expensive for most smallholders. Targeted subsidies, maybe learning from planting for food and jobs, could help farmers adopt tools that boost productivity.
And strengthening farmer cooperatives.
Yes. Co-ops give farmers more bargaining power, help them share resources, invest collectively in things like storage. Supporting them with training and finance could unlock huge benefits.
And on the practical side, just basic training and education seem vital.
Absolutely essential. Keeping farmers updated on modern techniques, sustainable practices, climate adaptation, expanding programs like FA Step 2 could have a massive impact.
And finance again. Better access to microfinance.
Crucial. Expanding rural financial institutions, designing products specifically for smallholders, it helps them invest and manage risk. Breaks that cycle of limited resources.
And finally, digital tools seem like a relatively cheap way to make a big difference.
Potentially huge leverage.
Yeah.
Mobile apps for market prices, tractor rentals, remote advice. Supporting these can make the whole supply chain more efficient and fair.
Adu paints quite an optimistic picture if these things happen, right? Significant growth possible by 2028.
He does. It suggests substantial economic growth, better food security, improved livelihoods for millions if there's a concerted effort from policymakers, the private sector, and farmers themselves. It's about bridging those gaps we talked about.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, let's quickly hit the key takeaways. Ghana's agriculture. Absolutely vital, employs almost half the population, big GDP contributor.
But faces major hurdles. Poor infrastructure roads, storage leading to huge post-harvest losses.
Gaps in market access, fair pricing, finance access, often relying on middlemen, lacking credit.
And climate change throwing curveballs, making everything riskier.
However, we also saw resilience and opportunity. Things like crop insurance starting up, diversification happening, better storage techniques, precision farming, mobile apps making inroads.
Right. Value addition potential, expanding markets, climate-smart practices being adopted. And those case studies, COCOBOD, NRGP, showing that collaboration and investment really can work, boosting exports, improving lives.
And looking forward, the solutions seem clear, if not simple to implement. Better rural roads, targeted tech subsidies, stronger cooperatives, more farmer training, accessible microfinance, leveraging digital tools.
Industry projections suggest real growth if these pieces fall into place.
Ultimately, as Adu emphasizes, it needs everyone pulling together, doesn't it? Farmers adapting, traders engaging fairly, policymakers creating the right environment, the private sector investing, communities participating.
It's a collective effort.
He ends with that really hopeful image of Afai, the farmer in Tamale, getting her maize to market because the roads and storage were better. It's a picture of what's possible.
A tangible vision. It reminds us that a thriving agricultural future for Ghana, benefiting farmers and the whole nation, is definitely achievable. It just requires that united action.
A powerful note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.